Again, I'm Kevin Winston, founder of Digital LA. Super honored to be able to moderate this panel on AI. I run Digital LA, and we organize entertainment tech events for the past decade or so all around LA, talking about AI and other tech things. So that's me. Let's have our panelists introduce themselves with your name, your company, what you do briefly, not your whole LinkedIn bio, and something fun that happened in the past week or so.
Ooh, in the past week. You can hear me, right? Am I going first?
Yep.
Hi, I'm Jenna Cavelle. I am an entertainment executive, a creative producer, an AI strategist. I have been working as the head of production and business operations for a 9-picture Hulu slate at Disney. And I've started to pivot into embracing agentic AI workflows to help independent producers and small production companies use AI, integrate them into their production processes, and be more efficient and more effective at producing.
Oh, me next? Okay. Hi, I'm Luisa, and I am one of the co-founders of Toonstar. And Toonstar is a digital-first animation studio. And I think I actually had brought something that easier to like explain. Just let it roll. So let's play the sizzle, and you guys get to
roll the sizzle.
See it.
Wrestling promotion's about to go under.
Sir, this is a Burger King?
Abuelo, what is Tomas up to?
If you don't make this split S, the ship is gonna snap in half.
I'm pregnant.
How many zeros are we talking about here?
We use new technologies, whether it's Web3 or AI.
Hey, Parker, tengo un truco nuevo. ¡Ya, dale!
It helps us create animation very quickly. It's almost like this real-time way to do it.
Space Junk is a really fun project Dom brought to me.
This is fun because you get an idea, you can kind of go out, produce it. Toonstar can make the animation quickly.
We're never giving this shit back.
We've used AI for a long time in our production process to be a co-pilot to story creation.
We're going to be making a lot of improvements to this place.
What we've done with Space Junk is there's actually a creative co-pilot. Her name is Becca.
I'm going to go work on my vision board to plan my new operating system personality.
Becca will help you write a character story, and that's all powered through AI.
I'm not crazy.
We saw so many creators out there with amazing stories that just couldn't break through. We really looked at it and said, how do you get around gatekeeping and tell their stories?
That's why it felt so familiar.
We think about how we can create content and stories that are natively built in for interaction.
I think what Toonstar is doing to gamify the animated series is great for the industry. And it becomes sort of a community, and it's changing the way everything is consumed.
Get the boys and gas up the van.
Awesome. Thank you for that example. And sizzle reel. Next.
Hi, my name is Neko Sparks, and I don't know how I feel about following that. That was impressive. My company is POV 23, and we specialize in kind of the migration between traditional media and any emerging technologies. My producing partner is out here in the audience somewhere, and we're very excited on what's on the forefront, right now as this convergence happens.
Great. And next up, John.
I'm, I'm John Kraft. I'm the co-founder, COO of Operative Games. We have created a new genre of immersive interactive storytelling that's built around AI characters. And so we've brought in top Hollywood writers to create these stories, these narratives. And the way our first title works is that there's absolutely no download. There's no platform. All of our characters have phone numbers. They have emails. You can text with them. You can call them on the phone. They'll answer. They'll talk to you. You can have Zooms with them. And as you interact with these characters, they pull you into the story. They've been imbued by our writers with knowledge of the story, with their own motivations, with their own needs and goals. And as you talk to them, they pull you in and you become immersed in this story with these characters. One exciting thing that happened to us in the last week is that we launched our company. We came out of stealth at GDC. We had a big piece written about us by Dean Takahashi at VentureBeat, as well as by Dave Stanley at AI Game Changers. And we've got some more stuff coming out. So we're sort of an exciting moment for any startup. I do think there's a little reel here that I gave. This, to set it up, it's just our engineer having a conversation with one of our characters. You get a feel for what that's like. It's actually an actual Zoom call that he's having with our character, Daniel.
All right, can we roll John's clip?
Hey, Daniel.
Greetings, Eric. How's it going?
It's going pretty good.
I feel like a giraffe folding itself into a clown car.
Yeah, it does look like a tight squeeze.
Well, looks like my shirt decided to start its own abstract art gallery.
Yeah, man, hopefully that stain is easy to get out. Sorry about that.
No worries, it's just adding some character to my outfit. In case Enya didn't tell you, my name's Daniel Janik. And you must be Eric, right?
Yeah, that's me. She didn't say much about the nature of our conversation or anything, so it's kind of a mystery. What's up?
Gotcha. Well, you're catching me a bit off my game. I just got out of business lunch that turned into 6 rounds of soju and some loud karaoke. But let's get down to it. Sound good?
Oh, you can't drop that bomb without going into more detail. What did you sing?
All right. Picture this. A bunch of Korean investors, 6 rounds of soju, and me trying to hit the high notes on Bon Jovi's Wanted, Dead or Alive. Let's just say, I'm more of a basketball guy than a rock star. Now, let's get back on track. Are you up for it?
Yeah, sounds good.
Awesome. So Eric, tell me, what do you do for a living?
Actually, I'm a 3D artist. I work on animation and systems and 3D models and characters, stuff like that.
That's pretty cool. Bet you $5 imaginary dollars that takes a lot of creativity and patience. What's your favorite part of the job?
Honestly, lately, bringing characters to life. It's really cool to kind of inject animation and ideas and systems into a character that then turns around and surprises you and seems very lifelike. So it's been quite the journey.
I can see why Enya thought your skills might be a great fit for our needs. It's all about bringing things to life, whether it's a character or getting to the bottom of a mystery.
Very, very cool. Love that real-time AI interaction there. So
yeah.
Cool. All right, so that is our panelists. I love to see, because I'm a marketing guy myself, who in the audience is into AI or what your level is. Who here has actually played with some level of AI, whether it's ChatGPT or another video image creator or anything like that? All right, most everybody. Good. Better than we were at last year doing this. Awesome. All right, who here is a content creator? Let's say you're a filmmaker, writer, director, artist. All right, cool. Here's on the business side. Business side, executive, marketing, PR. All right, got it. All right, and other people who are curious, that's great too. Great. All right, so I have about like a third. So we'll kind of like tailor the conversation accordingly. Great. All right, so you each have used some level of AI in your startup work. You each have startups, and you all are basically using the AI tool in your startup to help tell stories. Can you dig a little bit deeper on why AI and what tools you're using to help with your work?
Yeah, I'll start. So it started for me when I was working as an executive at Disney. I had this 9-picture feature film slate that I had to deliver in just over 2 years. And the traditional production process, as you know, is very expensive, and it's time consuming, and it's rigid. And ChatGPT had just become available publicly, and so I started playing around with it to do research on tax incentives, to kind of compare tax incentive regions against one another. And I quickly found out that what normally took 1 to 2 weeks, hiring a line producer, doing reconnaissance in the location, meeting the film commissioner, all of this stuff could be done within a matter of minutes. And it really opened my eyes, and it really changed the game for me. And from there, I started playing around with, meeting with AI developers. There was a company called StoryFit that looked at narrative insights to kind of predict audience engagement and the success of a film. So I looked at it sort of from the development side. And then moving from there, once agentic AI kind of started to come into the picture, I started teaching myself how to build agents. And I started using SmithOS, and then I moved over to N8N and Make.com and began building these agents to kind of automate so much of the production process that wasn't very fun, was very tedious and expensive, and was able to sort of compress a significant part of each point in the life cycle of a piece of content to the point that I could really start to see how this technology could scale production environments in a way that would make it so much more affordable and so much faster and more likely to deliver this slate of movies, and also ensure that as I get older, I'm not on set 20 hours a day and out of town 9 months out of the year.
So to help with production.
Yes,
and,
production,
back-end workflow, all
every
that
element, every single point in the step of a life cycle of a piece of content, whether it's a feature or a podcast or TV or episodic, there are so many AI tools that are available to help with that process, to help make it more efficient and to free up you to be more creative.
Great, thank you. Do you want to add to that?
Yeah, so the premise of our company really I think kind of taking it back, so my co-founder and I actually have some, background in the studio system. We met at Warner Brothers. I spent 12 years at Disney. He spent, a lot of years over in Warner and DreamWorks. So I think between the two of us, we had a lot of experience in the animation industry and the legacy studios. And the thing that you learn in that time is that animation as a category takes a long time and is incredibly expensive. It's really hard to break through. And it's not a medium that's accessible to most people. And so, what we really looked at in terms of trying to figure out tool sets and trying to figure out machine learning and, later generative AI to really think about how do we lower the barriers to entry for this particular medium, because at the same time we were also seeing, and this was, kind of rewind back, YouTube's 20 years now, but so rewind back kind of as YouTube was getting its foothold, we saw that consumer behavior was changing and distribution was fundamentally changing, and that you had a new generation of people who were really discovering content and going to YouTube first as a platform to be able to, consume content. And at the same time, animation wasn't there. So there was no original content that was being made for YouTube. And so that's really kind of the impetus for the company and what we were setting out to do. We've been around for roughly almost 10 years. We spent the first 3 years kind of developing the proprietary tech stack to be able to do just that. And we like to say now that we're in the AI space before it was, cool to talk about being in the AI space. Jenna and I have actually known each other for a minute, and we were just saying, we met when she was kind of working with us on a project as well. And it was just for that the purpose of like animation was so hard to be able to produce, get out to market, couldn't really keep up with social media. And that's really sort of like where we were really looking at and figuring out how to go to market using machine learning, using generative AI. And that's really like we have a full tech stack through the entire animation process to be able to do that. So that's kind of like our sort of usage of AI.
So throughout the production process, are you also using it to like create the characters or do the voices or?
Yeah, so really kind of in every step of that, of the process, we have AI and machine learning embedded throughout. I think I should probably make a quick note on this is like, our tech stack and our systems are not an open platform. So it's not something that you can get off the shelf because our purpose in the studio is really focused on creating and partnering with producers, partnering with creators to make IP. And what's critically important is that everything that's within our ecosystem is actually commissioned artwork and it's all copyright protected. And so you don't have anything in the system itself that is externally brought in. And so, we have a fully copyrighted and trademarked system that allows for content creators to really kind of own the assets and build your own show utilizing these tool sets without the compromise of having, copyright and copyright infringement issues. And then you also have copyright, protections for the work that comes out of it.
Perfect, thank you.
Yeah, so our journey began a little bit differently, right? We were contracted by a major comic book company on how to engage this audience that has I'm going to date myself here, but a far more limited span in terms of how they interact with media, right? So the legacy companies were, we've got this great content, they're on it for 2 minutes. How do we increase the engagement? And, back then there was no ChatGPT, LLMs were early, so we had to kind of design our own proprietary LLM to be able to have them interact with these various comic book characters. And, from there, generative AI came out, et cetera, et cetera. And so what we do in our pipeline now is we merge traditional media along with, emerging technologies and the abilities of generative AI. And to your point, we create characters and then we utilize AI tools to bring those characters to life, right? So our characters are owned by us and they're trademarked and, they meet all suitable copyright laws, but at the same time, the generative AI tools allow us to tell stories that we could never tell, right? And to be able to have this technology for a kid in Mexico or a kid in Ghana to be able to tell a story that they had no access or ability to tell in the past is super exciting for us. So that's what we do in our company. We kind of push those stories that are on the fringes that, wouldn't be told without AI.
And what's your story?
So it's funny, when we started this company, I co-founded this company with John Snoddy, who led R&D for the Walt Disney Company for the last 15 years, or the 15 years prior to us getting off the ground. And when we set out to talk to writers, because as I mentioned, we use Hollywood screenwriters and we're all about great storytelling. And we believe that to tell great stories, you need great writers. AI is not yet at a place where it can weave a compelling story. And it may get there at some point, but our contention is that human storytellers put a different level of compassion and heart, and their stories are just more interesting. And we set out to start talking to writers as we got off the ground, and it was right at the time that the writer's strike was happening, and AI was at the center of that. And so at the beginning, we got a lot of sort of sideways stares and a lot of, they just didn't understand what we were trying to do. And I even had a close friend who, he was a writer on NYPD Blue, and I was like, you've got to do this. You've got to. And he just wasn't sure. He could buy into it. He's written all kinds of amazing stuff, but he said, I've got a guy who would be amazing for this, and it was Mickey Fisher, who created Extant. He created Reverie. He's like a great science fiction writer. He wrote for Jack Ryan. Anyway, we met with Mickey, and Mickey just loved it, and so Mickey has become kind of our first writer, writing the heart and soul of this first game. So everything we do is around AI. It's not about our pipeline, although actually we do use AI in our creative pipeline as well. But it's really about the characters we build and giving them life and giving them story and purpose, so that people can interact with them and immerse themselves in these stories. But to sort of circle back and close the loop on this story, my friend reached back out to me about a month ago, because Mickey's been now working with us for over a year, and he was like, "Hey, you need any more writers?" And that's just to say, it's just been a real ball for Mickey to imagine. You're a writer. Typically, you write a screenplay, and then it goes through development, and you make changes, and it goes through executives, and they bring other writers in, and by the time you see it, it's like 2.5 years later, at the fastest. Mickey can write a character, and we can stand that character up in a couple of days, and all of a sudden say, "Hey, Mickey, here's the character's phone number. Give him a call, talk to him, see if that's what you meant to write." And Mickey can have conversations with the character and say, "Okay, gosh, all right, here I need to change a few things," and just be iterative like that. And it's a completely new way of writing and being creative, and it's been really exciting for him, and he's just brought so much to the company.
Great. So say 10, 15 years ago, if we were having these conversations, you would hire a writer to write all this dialogue and branching dialogue and script pages and pages and pages of anticipating what someone might say and interact with the character. On the writing side, you might have a voice actor record tons of dialogue and try to anticipate what the character might say. But now with AI, you can just train based on this content and then have the AI do it automatically. Is that basically the goal? I guess I have lots of friends who are writers, voice actors, and artists. What is their role going to be in the ecosystem in 5 years? Or next year?
Every one of our characters is based on a voice font that we created in collaboration with a voice actor, and we do. We're very committed to human talent, and actually I got a call a couple of days ago from our creative director who said, "Hey, so and so, I won't name names. Our voice for Marie, one of our characters, spoke to a reporter who now wants to talk to us because she's so excited about the work that she's doing for the Operative." But to answer your question, or take the track you were heading down, we have about 1,200 lines that we have each actor record in different emotional states. So it's a lot of recording. And from that, we produce a voice. And that voice can say anything, and it'll sound exactly like that character. And we do our contracts so that if the game is successful, that the actor is successful, and we can't use that voice for any other game. And we're very, very diligent about making sure that the actors are compensated fairly, and that's a big part of our culture is making sure that talent is taken care of, and that we're building this whole framework around great storytelling, and that includes voice actors, writers, and designers.
So I think I want to also talk about kind of like the creative ecosystem that you were kind of bringing up when your friends who are artists and creators. In the animation industry, I think the thing that people don't talk about a lot is actually, I would say about 50 years ago, like 90% of jobs in the animation industry were outsourced. So the fact of the matter is that you're not talking about jobs that really exist here in the United States, like, because we are not competitive. They're out in, like, if you think about the outsourcing of where animation mostly is produced now in the legacy world, they're in South Korea, they're in parts of Latin America, some even in India. When we think about like our sort of like economic system, we're just simply not going to be competitive against an economic system where you're talking about people being paid dollars per hour. And that's just not going to be, something that we can sustain as an industry. And we see AI being able to supercharge the artist here. When coupled with an artist, you can actually bring back those jobs and bring back the talent of creativity, because there's so much creativity here. There's just so much talent here in the US. Our entire studio is actually based out of LA. So we are bringing those roles and those jobs back into the US to be able to do animation, to couple that with, the AI ecosystem that's going to supercharge those creatives, the artists, and be able to bring back that ecosystem back to, our ecosystem. And I think that's part of the balance that, we like to bring to the forefront, is that when coupled with these tool sets, it can actually be a force multiplier for, increasing the workforce here.
Great. You all have incredible backgrounds in the traditional entertainment industry, working at studios, and then now you have your startups because you saw something that could have been fixed or improved. What is the VC or investment ecosystem like for AI startups? I know that 2 years ago when AI was really popping, everyone was like, "Oh, you have AI in the title of your startup or on the first page of your deck?" Yes, money. What is it like now? Is it still robust, or do you have to prove customers or revenue or users? What's it like now?
I think for POV 23, when we initially co-founded this company with my co-founder here, Cisco Reyes, one of the considerations was, how is this entity going to be funded, right? Because we're a traditional AI company and we moved into the more entertainment space, which we've seen a clear path to disruption. And I think the thing on the VC front, or when you're out raising capital, is money's money, right? And if you can show value through the utilization of AI in your workflow or in your production, VCs are always going to follow that path. So it's a matter of showing the VC or showing an institutional investor or a private equity fund, like, at the end of the day, this is going to make money. It's going to make money more efficiently. And more importantly, it's going to change how this industry is perceived. I mean, to your credit, the way that the workflow works in AI is expanded globally, right? We did a project where we did a werewolf project, right? And we can have a kid in Ghana do this project. We can have them, act the role out, shoot it, send it to us, skin the character, and he's got a production in a major film that it's an opportunity that he wouldn't have had before, right? So it's really opened some economic doors, and as long as you can show the VC that there's a path to, some kind of financial return, I think the money will always be there.
Great. There are a lot of different AI tools that people on the business side can use and that on the creative side can use. I'm not sure what everyone in the audience tends to use on a day-to-day basis, but what are the tools that you'd recommend either an aspiring creative person or someone who wants to use AI tools more in their business work to use? These could be the top 2 or 3 that you use, or the top things that you've heard about or seen or would recommend.
Yeah. Well, again, for me, my sort of tech stack is, like a lightweight agentic system where I'm essentially using something like N8N or Smith OS. And both of these companies, by the way, have free agent engineering training programs on their websites. I took them myself and learned them myself. And then I'm connecting that agent builder with my LLM of choice through an API key. after, of course, putting all of my data, like, in the case of a production, it might be vendor data, it could be budget data, and I'm putting that in a Google Sheet or Notion, and then connecting it to the LLM, and I will query, and then it'll flag any sort of issues, give them back to me, or trigger like a Slack notification, or create a follow-up task in Asana. So you can kind of create these bespoke agent systems depending on what project you're managing, whether it's a feature or a podcast or it's a slate of films. And there are certainly privacy and control issues when you're working in this way, because they are using cloud systems. It's not proprietary and closed, as in the case of Toonstar. So you have to be really careful, and you have to, that's why in my AI use cases, I'm making sure that I have a lot of control over the data, that I'm redacting anything that needs to be redacted. So yeah, there are a lot of issues around that I think have to be overcome. But essentially, that's the primary way that I'm using it right now. But creatively, a lot of the filmmakers and producers that I work with obviously are using, Runway and Sora and all of the traditional creative AI platforms. I think that have had the majority of the focus in entertainment has sort of been on that, and less on how do we use AI as producers and operations teams to make production workflows more efficient.
Anybody else want to answer that?
I think, I was going to say, it's hard to answer that question because there's like just such a smattering. So I was like, the best AI is whatever AI you're going to use on a daily, multiple time basis. And you'd be surprised, every single application out there has like an AI companion or an AI sort of like plugin nowadays. So I would say whatever it is that you're using that is already in the flow of what you have in your ecosystem, whether it's you're on Google, so there's Gemini plugins everywhere. So you're on Adobe. Adobe's got a plethora of AI. So I would start with wherever you are daily basis touching, like activate the AI sort of like companions to be able to really just, find a way to, I'm always looking at as a start, 10%, right? Like once you start feeling those gains, you're like, this is awesome. Like now I'm going to keep stacking on. And then it becomes, maybe it's a personal thing. It's a little addictive because I'm like, cool, what's the next AI tool that I can like bring into this? Like what else can I see? And I think that's like a really great way to start. And it sounds like everyone kind of raised their hand. So everyone's already playing in it. Everyone's already comfortable in it. I would just be like, start by even ask your AI, like, what are the new ones to like track, and just start playing with it. It's,
And I just add one thing, which is however often you find yourself using AI today, use it 3 times that amount. Because, I am just constantly amazed where it can add value. I built a company once with Bill Gross at Idea Lab, and I love Bill, and so I follow him. And I think it was maybe 4 months ago, he posted something on LinkedIn that was about how he uses AI to improve his PowerPoint presentations. And he says he just goes to ChatGPT, feeds it his PowerPoint outline, and he says, give me 10 things that you'd improve, 10 things that maybe I didn't quite get right about this, and then give me 10 other things that you would do to really expand on this presentation. And 2 seconds, and he said it was just incredible. So I tried that. I tried it with a treatment that we had done for this concept that we were working on. And again, did the exact same thing. I fed the prompt into ChatGPT, nothing fancy. We use all kinds of tools in the office, but just fed it into ChatGPT. I said, give me 10 ways to improve this treatment, 10 things I might not have thought of, 10 issues, and 2 seconds. And it was unbelievably useful, and it was creative, and it was fun, and I just use it as much as you can.
Amazing. We have about 5 minutes left for questions, and I want to be interactive. I will jump into the audience and do questions. Stand up first. Can you stand up and ask your question?
Hi. One of the major issues in production is mathematical, because the schedules need to be balanced and budgeting needs to be balanced and sales estimates. And that's what frustrates producers the most. All of these numbers, and a lot of money gets wasted, because how do you decide that let's go film in this state for the tax credits versus here where things are going to cost this much? Airline flights, hotel stays. So all the variables are mathematical. And when I started experimenting with AI, I was under the assumption that I would get a supercomputer that'll help me mathematically. But it's like most of the tools are very, at present, like very intern level stuff that I would get a PowerPoint presentation for a sales estimate or something. So do you see that production workflow going in that direction, where we can have an AI that balances all of this math for us, like the schedules and the budget and sales estimates?
Could we have one person answer succinctly so we can get to more questions?
Yes, I do. There are actually companies already doing it. You should look at Synalytic. They do developing and financing. I know that Entertainment Partners is starting to integrate AI into their budgeting scheduling software. I think you should ask your chatbot that very question and see what it comes back with. I think
All right,
you'd be
excellent.
surprised.
Excellent question. A question over here?
So in here, I think we have basically most people are believers in it. They've played around with different AI, and I feel like sometimes when I talk to other people about AI, I sound like a cultist. Outside of this room, though, I think there's a lot of people that have fear and distrust over it. So as the entertainment, gaming, all these different verticals, is it our job just to continue to tell the story and try to convince people? Or is it our job to create like a label or some branding in which way we can sort of explain to people that there is organically sourced AI or something like that? What are your opinions?
Well, I'll take a first stab at it. I do think, we definitely, when we started out, we felt we had the obligation to be advocates for AI, to convince the world that AI was their friend and that they could get value from it, and in a very innocuous way, right? We're just creating fun. We're creating fun experiences, and we're doing it with human artists, with human talent, and so I think our job is kind of easy. I think we're creating a new form of entertainment. There is certainly a sense of fear about, will AI go off the rails and create problems for my kid? Will it exacerbate issues of loneliness and antisocial behavior because you just get attached to these characters? And so, we do feel like it's incumbent on us to try and tell our story in a way that will, make it feel fun. And that's our intent. Our stories have a beginning, a middle, and an end. You go through it and, it's a fun experience. Ultimately, we'll have multiplayer versions of it and so forth. But yes, I do think it's an issue. I do think we as advocates have to
I think we as us in this space all automatically are evangelists for what we do by telling people what we do. And it's up to all of us to educate our friends, I think, who have not played around with it as much on what it actually can do and what the real advantages and disadvantages are. So we have 1 minute left. So quick question there and short answer here.
Okay. Of course, AI is very powerful, a lot of great benefits, but also another hot button topic when it comes to AI sustainability and impact potentially on the environment. So I would just like to hear from whoever wants to answer your company's approach and your thoughts around how AI can be used sustainably.
So, when we built our models, and I think it's really finding a purpose for the AI. So when we built our models and we build our data sets, we actually have very, very custom models that, the data set is so specific that it does not need to kind of boil the ocean in order to be able to, have that engine sort of work. And so I think that's the thing is to really kind of think about what is the true use case, what is the problem that you're solving, so that you don't end up, and I'll I'll pick on OpenAI a little bit, which is like, and there's so many great things about what they do and what they are, but they sort of like went about basically saying like, I'm going to create the answers to everybody's problem and everybody's like, thing. There's like a, catch-all solution. And because of that, their data set, their infrastructure, their sort of use of power, their servers, it is so large. Like every single query becomes this ginormous sort of like suck on the ecosystem. And that's sort of like, I think that, where I see AI moving to and where I see where it becomes more sustainable is when people start asking the question like, all right, if I'm making the choice of what AI to use and who I'm going to partner with to create things, am I going to make the choice of working with a company who, I'm biased, but we're animation specialists, right? So if you are looking to do animation, you're gonna work with an animation specialist that builds custom models for animation. You don't need a ChatGPT or an OpenAI because there is also, to the point of education, right? People need to understand every single query you make, what that footprint looks like. And so I think it's a responsibility that people have to really be, drive awareness and drive that kind of adoption and make those choices to say, all right, well, I'm going to participate and use AI, but how do I do it in a way that, is sustainable? And I think choosing those paths I think that's one way to be able to do it.
Yeah, responsible AI and sustainable AI is definitely important. So as you're saying, when you're building your tools, you all have built your own proprietary tools so that you're not necessarily having to use, like you said, some of the large OpenAI or GenAI or tools that don't have licensed material. Great. Well, we're at the end of our time. I just wanted to thank you all for sharing your stories. You all have, been in the studio system. You know how it works. You saw a need or an idea that you wanted to help make happen. You did it with your team, building responsible, licensed, approved, and you're working with the creative community as partners and helping create what you're doing, which is the way to do it these days. So I'll just give them a big round of applause for sharing with us what they're doing today. So thank you.